and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll begin the meeting with a moment of silence. And announce that the meeting is being recorded and televised by the local cable company. I'd like a motion to approve bill and payroll warrants.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to accept correspondence in the read file.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Public forum, now's the time for anyone to speak who wants to speak on something that's not on the agenda. Chief.
Thank you. In the, I wanted to make sure that this board was notified before it hit the papers, and I know that your next meeting is not until May 28th, so I just wanted to inform the board that Deputy Fire Chief Joe Feeney has notified me of his intent to retire, which will be effective on July 7th of 2019. Joe was appointed to the department in June of 1987. He rose through the ranks, and he was appointed as Deputy Fire Chief in 1999. Joe is a great asset to our department and to our operations. His retirement is going to leave a large void, which will definitely be felt by not only me but all the members of our department. Joe has been an outstanding firefighter and deputy fire chief his entire 32-year career. There will be a retirement party for Deputy Feeney on June 22nd at the VFW Pavilion. Tickets are available at the fire station. I would ask that if the board has any type of presentation that you would like to, if you see so fit, if you want it to be presented that night or forwarded down, just let us know. And I wish Deputy Feeney great success in his well-deserved retirement. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
One other announcement. Congratulations on a year as chief of
Yes.
Fire Chiefs of Massachusetts.
Yes, it was 1 year today. I've been blessed. It's the best time of the year right now.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief, for both the announcement and the recognition.
What do you say, July 22nd?
Okay, Chairman's report. I'll be brief. I just wanted to bring us sort of a running recap of where we are right now and how we ended up where we were after town meeting. As you know, at the last town meeting a year ago, Frank announced that we would, because of the what we gave to the schools last year, that we would place ourselves in a precarious position this year. We probably need a heavy override this year. What we did to respond to that was that in the summer months we contracted with, or not contracted, we received help from Bridgewater State University to compile a community survey, and the reason for that was to lay the foundation for a strategic plan. It's my belief that a strategic plan is only as useful as and you've heard me say this before, as the statement of values that the town possesses. Any 5-year plan, 3-year plan, whatever, has to be based upon some kind of an assessment of what our values are as citizens and as a town. That process began at the end of the summer. It was going to be handled by a class that Professor Tarsi was teaching at Bridgewater State during the fall semester. And it was finally completed in around February or March, and we had a community meeting. Nothing's happened with it since then. We've had the results, and the next step will be, however, to put into writing what that community survey delivered to us, as far as what the town thinks of itself, what it would like to be in the future, and in some ways how it intends to pay for it. Although the reason for that community survey was not really to determine how we were going to pay for what we would like to be, It was to give a foundation for what we would like to be. So that's something that's still in progress. What we also did was to, in order to come up with a capital plan that made sense, we contracted this time with the Collins Group at Boston State. Frank has received a preliminary report from them. He sent it back because it needed some more work, and so that's still out there too. Right before a town meeting, we had a decision to make about what to put on the ballot for the 18th election. Whether it would be a debt exclusion that deals with the debt for the police station and the repairs to the town hall and the fire station, a sizable Proposition 2.5 override to deal with, primarily to deal with the increases the schools say that they needed in order to do level service, or to do one or either, or to do both. The meeting before the town meeting, I had asked for a motion after there had been a series of meetings among the department heads, with the finance committee, et cetera. I had asked for a motion for both an override and a debt exclusion. I think, and Randy made that motion for us, and we looked at that, and then Randy had asked that it be amended to only deal with the debt exclusion, which actually made some sense to me at the time. It wasn't what I had envisioned, but it made an awful lot of sense to do what we could do effectively, and that was to go for the debt exclusion rather than for an override that probably was going to need more discussion and more explanation to the citizens of the town in order for it to be successful, because it's critical that that override be successful. So as you probably know, we're envisioning a override in October, an override that gives everyone the opportunity to participate in its construction and to give the citizens enough time to consider the data that led up to that decision. That's where we are. That's where we are right now. It's a place that we need to be. It's a place that's going to mean an awful lot of work over the summer and the early fall in order to get it accomplished. But I believe it's critical for the health of this town for that to happen, for it to happen. I'm not sure right now, to be perfectly honest, whether or not, given the fact that summer months are months in which people are hard to get a hold of at times, whether or not that October date might be ambitious. However, but certainly within a short frame of time after October, we ought to be able to schedule a meeting an election that deals with those issues. That's where we are right now, as far as I know. Frank, you may have more to say.
Yeah, what appears, or what will appear on the May 18th ballot are a number of election of offices and a debt exclusion. Unfortunately, under the Proposition 2.5 language, the debt exclusion doesn't contain an amount. And the reason for that is it only authorizes you to exclude what it takes to make a payment for that year. So at this point, our fiscal 20 payment on the debt for the police station and town hall is $687,025. So that's what a yes vote will authorize the town to raise. And I know people are curious about what it costs them. Our median house range in Whitman, that is that value right in the middle where there's as many above it as below it, is $307,500. The increase in tax on that, if this debt exclusion is approved, is $129.15, or put another way, $10.76 per month. And what will it do? It'll enable us to address the capital needs we had to leave on the table at our town meeting last week. And in vehicle purchases, we're talking $329,000. In road work, if all is approved, $240,000. Building repairs and corrections, $268,000. And security provisions for all of the schools, for Whitman and for the high school, $135,800. If you add all that up, it comes out to somewhat more than the $687,000. But this is the beginning. It gives us the opportunity to fund and prioritize, because that money will then be available, although on a declining basis, each year to commit to capital or to reserves, as the case may be. The override will do much more to correct it, but we're not, that's not what's happening next week.
Okay. Thank you, Frank. Anything else that covers you and the budget review, right?
I hope everybody comes out and votes. Certainly, it's an opportunity for people to be heard.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I do have something
Yes.
to add. While you were talking about the fall, to get out as much information as we can get out and get everybody on the same page, school committee member Fred Small and myself kind of hitting the phones and trying to figure out how we can get more information out there. And tentatively speaking, I think the school committee will send an invitation, but the director of local mandates, Ben DeFoya, is going to be available for a school committee meeting on June 12th to come out and explain the unfunded and funded mandates that are pressed upon the school district. So that would fall in line with the projection of a late fall meeting to get more information out there and how and why this is happening.
Okay, thank you, Brian.
Sure.
You made me think of something, Frank, and I lost it as I was listening to Brian.
Sorry.
But that happens to
Don't say it.
that happens to old people. What I'd like to do is to take a couple of items here out of order, so that the town clerk and the treasurer don't have to sit here longer than they necessarily have to. Dawn, you wanted to talk about parking restrictions during the May 18th annual town election.
Good evening, Honorable Board. We've had a few parking issues just recently. I mean, they've probably been going on for years and things like that, but I know it's been brought to my attention. And I talked with Chief Benton, and me and him both felt, or he felt that, and I felt, that if we did limited half-hour parking, he has the barrels and you have the signs, right, just in front. We had done that before, so that people holding signs and things like that don't take up a spot for the whole day. And I think it should be a policy. I think it should be done every election, whether it's a town election, a state election, a federal election. I think the half-hour parking restriction should be set into a policy by you guys for just out front. And as far as the presidentials, I've always, and the town clerks prior to me have done bus routes. So the employees as well as the election workers, along with Barbara Garvey, we set up a bus route. They usually don't use it, and they park over in the police station, or most people get dropped off and things like that. So I just think if you did a policy for the out front, I think that would suffice the complaints or the people that had some concerns about the parking out front or in the area.
Okay.
So,
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah,
or
I have one
response?
question. Do you think we're in the town parking lot, right, how many handicap parking spaces? We have 2?
2.
I don't know if it would be a good idea, Frank, if we could maybe get like handicap parking spaces the temporary ones that are in a pole, and maybe add 2 more or something, just if people are coming in and out, for extra handicapped.
So I talked to Dan Conley about that, because I know that that was your concern. It was brought to me by my
Yeah.
assistant, Mary, that you had spoke to her. And Dan had said you can't really restrict, if somebody has a handicap placard, you can't say, well, you can't park here and you can't park here. So if you add, adding more is a great thing. I don't think that's a bad thing. But if it's my election workers that park there, you can't.
No, I mean for voters.
But you can't do that. That's what I'm saying. If they have a handicap placard and it's a handicap spot, you can't say, well, you can park there and you can park there, but you can't and you can't. Me and Frank talked about this, and like I said, I talked to Dan that day, and he said, I can't make them move because they have valid handicap stickers. So you can't say, because you're an election worker, if you did that, it could impact people, other than election workers.
And election workers will be parking other than elsewhere, other than the parking lot?
No,
Only-
they'll be parking in the
Yeah.
parking lot as well.
Well, should that be for the voters? And maybe park maybe at the senior center or at the police station or around the
Yeah.
park, someplace other than the
The
town park?
presidential's only been the one that's been a
Okay.
problem. People
Okay.
find places to park, and like I said, once you do the out front, if you do
Yeah.
that half-hour parking, I think that would be
Okay.
sufficient. Let's try it. If we find that we need more, we
We'll
can
know the next
always,
time, yeah.
but I'd hate to, we've done it this way for many years. And like I said, the presidential, I do a bus because I do realize we only get like a 7% turnout, and that's including absentee voters, whereas the presidential, we get a 75% turnout. So that's a huge difference in numbers as far
And the only
as.
other aspect that I've been over the years is the speeder cars going in front of town hall. I know that the ones that, the police officers that are crossing are constantly telling people to slow down.
I agree.
But maybe we can put some type of a blinking light, on either side down saying, election, slow down, heavy traffic, or something, just to slow them down, because I know that every time, whoever's directing traffic out there, they're always saying, screaming at guys, slow down.
There's been accidents too,
Yeah.
I know that, yeah.
So, just a
So-
thought.
So
Safety
ju-
first.
So just to be clear, what you're asking for is a policy that during elections, there be a half an hour restriction out front.
Yep,
And
I think
that's all you're asking.
we had said it before, just for one particular election. I think Scott has the boundaries. And also the one spot in front of Menards, I think, was another one. Just the one spot that poses a problem. We used to do 2, but I think the one spot in front of Menards, it helps people, it's a very congested area. I mean, you guys know, you stand out there
Yeah,
all the
vision.
time. Somebody that comes out of Central Street, they're coming out of Dunkin' Donuts, coming up and down, coming out of Davis Ave, it's just a disaster waiting to happen, so.
Okay, do you have anything to add, Chief?
No, I think she covered it.
I do have one more thing, just to help you out with absentee voting for the election. Do you want me to say that now, or?
Sure.
So I just want to let the people know that absentee voting is happening right now. You have to have your absentee application in by noon on Friday, the 17th. The ballot can arrive the day of the election, but I need a signed application by noon on Friday, the 17th. My office will be open, so exactly at noon. If you need to get one for your family member or anything like that, and they can't get down here, we try our best, even that day. We run it over to the post office, and that we kind of have an agreement with the post office, and they pretty much try to get them, we do as best we can to get them so that they can get to the people at home. So absentee vote if you can't get here on Saturday.
Just to clarify, Dawn, if someone requests an absentee ballot on Friday and then mails it back, in all likelihood, it won't arrive in time to be counted for the election, correct?
Correct. And with
So
a...
just wanted to
yeah.
clarify.
And with a town election, there is no grace period. So I have to receive it by 8 PM, just 5 PM on the close of polls. I'm thinking of a state election. Whereas a state election, you have 5 days after they can be postmarked. There's certain things for a state election. But for a local election, there is no grace period. So I have to have that ballot in the clerk's office by 8 PM. Somebody could run up literally by 5 PM, sorry, at 4:59 and hand me a ballot into the clerk's office.
On the last day of applying for an absentee ballot, couldn't
That's what
Could they
have to
get
do.
one and just vote?
Yes.
That-
Yep.
That's
You
what
can
they,
vote.
that's what they have to do.
That would be the best thing to do, yeah.
That's what they have to
Right,
do.
but if
Yeah.
somebody's getting one for a family member, like a mom or
Oh,
something.
right, that's not there?
The,
Right.
the son or daughter could come and apply for it by noon on Friday, and then we would mail it out, and then, long as they returned it to the polls by close of polls at 5 PM on Saturday.
Can someone pick up a ballot for someone else?
No. A ballot cannot be handed to any voter, has to be done through the mail. The only instance, there is one instance, there is a.
How would you get it?
If somebody is admitted into the hospital within 5 days of the polls, has to be 5 days before, there is on the application a section for that. They can then designate a person to come and pick up a ballot, and then we could then hand them a ballot. They could bring it to the person in the hospital, and then they can return the ballot. That is the only way, but they would need documentation for that. It's not just because you forgot or things like that. So you would have to be, you know, you sign, and you're, all of this, you're signing under your own hand, your own signature that happens. We don't need doctor's notes or hospital notes or anything like that.
Okay, just to be clear, because I'm starting to get confused.
Okay.
You can pick up an absentee ballot by noon on Friday, the day before the election,
Yep.
but it has to be in by 5 o'clock on that day?
So you can't pick up a ballot.
Saturday.
You can come in and vote till noon. So the application
Yeah,
has to be in, so say you, I'm just going to use you hypothetically, you wanted to get one for your wife. She, you know, not feeling well or something, and she's got the flu. So I don't want to wish that on anybody, but, so you could come in on Friday, fill out an application for her. I
Yeah,
can't give you
right,
the ballot.
right.
Long as I have that application by noon on Friday, we would then mail the ballot, and then you would hopefully get the...
you mail the ballot to her, but it has to be in by 5 o'clock that afternoon?
Nope.
The next day.
The next day,
The next day?
election day.
Oh, election day, I'm
By
sorry.
the close of polls, so
Okay.
you could bring it
Got it.
in...
That's
Never mind.
one-day delivery?
I got it.
So as long as they deliver the
As
mail
long as
overnight,
they deliver the mail
you're all
with it
set.
overnight, it's all right, okay.
Yeah.
So we, when
All
we,
right.
Oh.
they work well with us during this process.
Okay, I
We bring them,
understand
we
now.
hand them to them, and they kind of know, so.
Okay,
I'm-
thanks.
There's no guarantees, but,
Okay, thank you. Donna's asked for a policy that during elections, a policy that would go forward, that during elections, there'd be a half-an-hour restriction on the parking spaces out front. Someone want to make a motion to
Make that motion.
adopt that policy?
Second.
Yes.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion? And then we'll memorialize it in writing at the next meeting, but we can
Great.
vote on it now.
great.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, guys, very much,
Thanks.
appreciate it.
Mary Beth, execute State House notes for streetlight project.
Good evening. Last year, we had an article on the special town meeting to borrow $280,000 for the streetlight project, and that note has come due, and it will be due on May 20th. So this year, we had another article on this year's special town meeting to fund $100,000 from the Green Communities grant proceeds that we received, as well as the interest costs. We went out for a renewal ban, State House loan note, for the difference of $180,000. That went out to bid on May 8th, and the lowest bidder was Unibank at 2.25%. So I would just like, tonight, I believe Frank has the documents that need to be signed. It would be a note, a clerk's certificate, and covenants, which need to be signed, and I will drop those in FedEx tonight to the DOR. So if you could maybe take a casual vote to approve the State House loan note for $180,000, the renewal note, and sign the
Okay,
documents.
is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Signatures, please.
They're now being passed around.
Right,
2.2, that's
okay. So we'll pass them down and then get them to you
Okay, very
as soon
good.
as we can.
Thank you.
And while you're doing that, perhaps Lisa can give a quick update on the project.
On the LED streetlight? Sure.
And fortunately, we have the emeritus gentleman who created this whole
Lisa.
program
Good
to
evening, members
explain
of
a
the
few
board.
things for you.
Mr. Chairman. We have an update on our streetlight project, and I'd like to introduce George Woodbury of LightSmart. He's joined us tonight to kind of explain the situation that's going on with the lights. So the Cobra heads are all installed, 823. We have left the floodlights. The floodlights there became a problem with the brackets. The brackets attached to the old floodlights didn't fit the new floodlights, so Mr. Woodbury ordered custom brackets, which we did receive. So after tonight's meeting, Arden will hopefully get to work on that. But during the process, Arden Engineering, who was our contractor installing the LED lights, discovered a serious situation with the wiring of the street lights. And if Mr. Woodbury would like to come up, I'll let him explain exactly what's going on with the lights, with the wiring, because it's going to cost us some money to fix it. Mr. Woodbury.
Thank you very much. Just a little bit of history, as was mentioned. I was a director of public works in Lexington, Mass. from 1995 to 2000, and during that time frame, I wrote the laws in Massachusetts that allow you to buy your lights from the utility, and then ultimately allowed you to do this project. Your annual streetlight bill is about $143,000 to $145,000. Just the act of buying the lights, taking over their maintenance, will save the town about $55,000 a year. And then once you convert them to LEDs, it'll increase that savings to over $100,000 a year. Wow. So that's why I wrote the legislation. In Lexington, we had a $500,000 annual bill for our 3,343 streetlights. And now that bill is under $100,000. So it's a terrific program. And the other thing I would like to say, it has been a real pleasure for me to work with Lisa and Frank on this project. We wouldn't be where we are today if it weren't for their attention to detail and making decisions as we go along. So hats off to them. So here's the situation. Back originally, these lights were installed by EUA, Eastern Utilities Associates. Eastern Utilities Associates sold the system to New England Electric, NEES, New England Electric Energy Services, in 1999, and NEES was subsequently purchased by National Grid in 2000. When EUA installed the lights, they used a 14-gauge underground rated wiring, similar to household wiring, that is not rated for UV exposure. So all of the wiring that's been exposed to the sunlight from the base of the mast arm that goes up to connect to the secondary is disintegrating. We went back to National Grid and said, this is a problem. You've sold us something that A, doesn't meet code, B, you should have known didn't meet code. You should have disclosed this to the town at the time of sale, and you failed to disclose. We want you to fix it. National Grid said, look at the documents you signed. It says all over the place, as is. It's your problem. So we could probably take a case before the Public Utility Commission and win it. It would take 2 years. The problem we have is, or the challenge we have is that 2 years means right now the MAPC will help us pay to replace that wiring. They'll pay up to 30% of that cost. We wouldn't have that opportunity 2 years from now. So I sought an alternative. And what I did was I leaned on National Grid and I said, you guys need to step up to the plate and help the town with this and make it go away, because you don't want this to become public knowledge that you've installed unsafe equipment, that you've been aware of it in the town. The DPU would force you to inspect every single light in every city and town that you own and correct the problem, I'm sure. So you don't want that. I suggested to them that we're installing a dimulator. The dimulator allows the lights to dim after hours, reducing its energy consumption. Why don't you offer the town additional incentives based on that additional dimming? You can justify it, and it's not your money, it's the state's money. Well, they thought that was a pretty good idea. So they increased our incentive from $77,000 to $84 to $92. So we got about almost $8,000 additional dollars. In addition to that, we went back to the MAPC, and they said yes, they would cover up to 30%. Now they will not take care of one portion of it, which is where the actual connection makes to the secondary. That's what's called a compression fitting that may or may not have to be renewed. And if it is, there's an expense associated with that. They won't cover that portion of it. And then in addition to that, you have, based on when you purchase the lights, there should be a budget savings this fiscal year in the streetlight account of approximately $27,000. So by combining all of those funds together, we cover the cost of the rewiring. What we don't cover is the compression fittings, and we don't know how many of those we're going to find until we actually get out there. What we did do also was we went back to the contractor who bid that compression fitting retrofit at $95 and negotiated a $37.50 price with him to reduce the price of that, plus the $13 cost of it, so $50 for what was going to cost $95. So those are the things that I've done in order to help bring all of this down to make it reasonable. From a long-term perspective, if we redo all of this wiring right now, that's one headache you won't have to face in the future. It's going to reduce your future maintenance costs. It's going to improve the reliability of your system, which means less citizen complaints. It's my advice that it's good to do this now while we can get this additional funds, and let's just solve this problem once for all.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions?
Saving $100,000, that's,
Okay. Anyone like to make a motion to proceed as described?
I will make that motion.
Second.
Just so everyone understands, the gross increase in our contract price is about 55,
Well, I think total potential of $87,000.
is $87,000. That is over and above what we had anticipated when we started this. I have a little more aggressive nature when it comes to dealing with something like that. I believe National Grid had an obligation to disclose the conditions. I believe if we ultimately decide to pursue compensation from National Grid, we would likely have standing to do that. Does any of our accepted additional funding commit us to not pursue?
No, and I was very careful not to do that because I'm already working with Matt Fair from the Koppelman and Page, the MMA, and we're trying to pull together a coalition of communities to go after National Grid over this and several other issues and try to get your money back.
We are not the only community that found this. There's another community that he's working with that discovered the same issues. So I would,
So this, the vote that we were about to take does not preclude us from
that's what I wanted to be
Right, yeah.
clear
from
about.
going after National Grid.
I thought that's what he said at the beginning.
Anyone have any thoughts, questions?
Clear.
All those in favor? Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Mr. Woodbury. Back to the top of the page, a new business. Public hearing with respect to the application of 1-on-1 Strong Incorporated, doing business as Wicked Smoothie Espresso Bar. Robert L. Peterson for a general all on-premises all alcohol liquor license on the premises located at 7 Marble Street. Subject to proof of liquor liability coverage, proof of a successfully completed alcohol beverage server training program, a written description of a training program attended by employees, and a written policy outlining measures taken for violating said policy. Certificate of inspection, the license mailing and advertising fees, and approval of the Alcohol Beverages Control Commission.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's also a note that the board must also determine that the premises are not detrimental to the educational activities of Self-Help Incorporated Head Start located at 168 Whitman Avenue. And Frank, I understand that to date, we've had no
Correct.
contact from them about this.
That is correct.
Anybody have
answered my
any,
question.
anybody have any questions or
He's-
thoughts?
I think he's out there. Maybe you want to explain
Yes.
what his plan is?
Sure, come up to the podium, please.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm just looking to start a
expand upon my business. We started out with health and fitness and got into the nutritional, using whole food ingredients and for nutrition, and also looking to expand our liquor license to responsible drinking and have a high-class, healthy option of drinking with, to include the community for community events and whatnot in my facility. And I don't know if you've ever been in there, but it's a classy little place, and want to keep it that way. It's not going to be anything crazy.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right.
Anyone have any questions? All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Best of luck.
Good luck.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, my daughter-in-law's been in there. She liked it. Yeah. Can't go anymore.
Act on the application of New England Authentic Eats LLC doing business as Papagino's for a common vittler's license on the premises located at 674 Bedford Street. This is a change in ownership. If approved, take action to rescind the common vittler's license for Papagino's on the premises located at 64 Bedford Street. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And
Should be a motion to
take
rescind.
action to rescind the common vittler's license for Papagino's on the same premises.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Act on the recommendation of the Council on Aging to nominate Barbara Garvey to serve as representative to the Old Colony Elder Services Board of Directors for the period July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Discuss the May meeting schedule. We had originally had today's date and May 21st as the May meeting schedule. However, one of our members has asked that we move the May 21st meeting to May 28th
Okay.
because of a conflict on May 21st. Is there any discussion?
Not a problem.
Okay, no problem. Consensus then would be May, till today, and the next meeting will be on May 28th. Old business performance evaluation form, Frank?
You have in your packet what I hope is the final draft of the form. The section on goals has been added.
Is there a motion to approve the performance review instrument for the town administrator?
Okay. I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? All had a chance to look at it? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And that, I believe, exhausts the meeting.
Well, now, I guess the question would be, now that we have it, do we refer to it in our personnel manual that
It should be, yes.
we'll, but we're,
It will be.
so we have to add it?
It will be
We're
added.
going to do it on an annual basis for,
And we also, I believe, talked about having an evaluation process for all appointed managers, so that issue will be addressed in the amended policy.
Well, actually, we could probably, right. How much would this form change if you took out the words town administrator performance review instrument?
Probably minimally.
Yeah. Lisa, do you have?
Yes,
Thoughts on that?
I just want to say that particular form is fashioned so that we can change town administrator to department head. You can be changed to any type of evaluation.
Right. Does much have to be done to the rest of it?
No. No, basically just the title, and then on the first page, I believe, where it again mentions the title of the employee
Right.
being evaluated, just change that. Otherwise, the rest of the form is a boilerplate language type of form. You can use it on any type of employee.
Got it. Thank you. There are no questions? All those in favor? We already voted it. You
It's cemented now.
confused me because you felt like you had to say something.
the double unvoted.
All right. Okay, need to go into executive session in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Exception 2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Yes.
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 Okay, we'll come in back in open session only to adjourn.